In today's Blender tutorial, I'm going to be showing you step by step how to make this dope motion capture simulation in Blender. The really cool thing is we're going to be using pre-existing animations that you can find for free online, and then all we're going to do is import it into Blender and then do this particle thing here with the hair. Now, I've done this tutorial a few years ago in Blender 3.1, but a lot has changed since then, so this is an updated version in Blender 4.3. You can see this is the final animation playing here. It's going to be fantastic, a lot of fun, and very beginner friendly. So if you want to follow along, keep watching. And as always, I will be uploading the final result blend file to my Patreon as well. But if you're not on there, it doesn't matter. You can still follow this tutorial and make this result here. I'll explain Adobe Mixamo in a second, and then we'll work our way through to Blender. Okay, so what we're going to be using is a free online resource called Adobe Mixamo. Now, you can create an account. You can see up here, it's just called mixamo.com. You can create a free account, and once you're signed in, this is what you're going to see. Okay, so the first section we're going to look at here is the characters. You can click on it, and obviously, you just select the character that you want. Now, because we're looking to do like a fur or hair simulation, I think a smoother body type would be better. So if we can move away from like high detail, that would be good. So I'm going to go down just to this one over here, which is the mannequin. I'm going to just click on it. It's coming up here with a little pop-up. It might not happen to you, but just says use this character. You're going to click on it. And then once your mannequin is loaded up, you're just simply going to go over to your animations. Once here, you can come here and search for whatever you're looking for. I'm going to type in dance. And once I've typed in dance, I'm just going to hit enter to search. And I guess I might just go with the chicken dance over here, but you can pick whatever you want. Now over here, I can see a little preview. It's a little bit laggy for my computer at the moment, so I'm just going to pause it. But essentially here you can view your animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on download. And I come here to the frames per second, and I'm going to change it to 24 frames a second. By default, it should be set to FBX, so make sure it is if it isn't. And then just come here and click on download, and it should only take a few seconds or a minute. And now inside of my downloads folder on my computer, I have this FBX file you can see over here. So I'm going to go to the properties. You can see it says .fbx. Now you can put this wherever you want in your computer. I'm just going to leave it in my downloads folder, and then I'll access it when we go into Blender. So let's go over to Blender. And inside of Blender, by the way, I'm using Blender 4.3. We're going to go ahead and go File. We're going to go to Import. Then let's go to the FBX option. In this case, it's in my downloads where it's downloaded to my computer. And I'm going to click on Chicken Dance FBX and then go Import FBX. And here it is. With it all active, I'm actually just going to go S to scale it up a little bit. Probably about this big relative to the default cube. And I'm going to select the actual character mesh, and I'm going to go Control A and just apply the scale. Then I'll select the default cube. I'm going to press delete. Then I'll select the default light and press delete. In fact, I'll just select the camera as well and just press delete. There we go. Okay, so if we now go over to our first frame and we hit the spacebar, we can see we have our animation. So I'm going to actually click on this rig over here. You can actually see the keyframes over here. So in this case, mine goes to 115. So I'm going to come here to my end frame value and make it 115, as that's all I need. And I think this should be in a loop, which it is. It's in a loop. There we go. Okay, so now we have everything done. Okay, from here, it's a ton of fun. We're really going to turn this into something that you're going to find very interesting. So make sure to save as well, just before we go too crazy. So what we're going to do is to be a little bit more organized. We're just going to click on our actual armature, not the mesh, but the armature. And we're going to press M on our keyboard. We're going to click on New Collection, just call it Rig, and just go Create. And then over here of our rig, we're just going to go and turn it off for both the render and the viewport, as we don't need to see it. We're then just going to click on the active collection, just so it's active. And now we're going to go Shift A. We're just going to go to our mesh options, add in a plane. We're going to go S to scale that plane up about this much. Then S, X, and scale it along the X. And then inside of edit mode, you're simply going to tab in and then go to edge select. And just behind the character, select this edge. And then go G and then Y to move it back. And then E to extrude and Z to extrude it up. And then just click on this edge in the middle and go Control B or Command B. And then just move your mouse and you'll create a bevel. And then rolling your middle mouse button, you can create segments and then just click again and then it's added in. Now you can tab back out. You can right click and go Shade Smooth. And we have a backdrop stage. In our front orthographic view, we're going to go Shift A. We're going to go to our option here for a camera, add it in. Then in our right orthographic view, we're just going to go G and move it forward, placing it about here. And then you can press 0 to go into camera view. And with your camera active, you can hit G and then the middle mouse button, and then just move your camera as usual. So something like this should be fine. We're then going to go to our render engine. We're going to change it from Eevee to cycles. I recommend if you have a GPU that you use it. I have mine enabled. If not, just stick to CPU, that should be fine. It'll just take a little bit longer to render. We're then going to go down to the max samples here. And I think with denoising enabled, even something as low as 30 should be fine. Okay, it'll still give us a relatively nice result and render faster than if we had it at a higher sampling. Okay, so with that done, make sure to save. We're now going to click on our character mesh. We're going to go over to our physics tab. We're going to click on new and we're going to create a system here. We can name it if we want. Let's just call it hair. I mean, that's not very creative, but you know, call it what you want. And then come here and change it from emitter to hair. So we want it to be hair. Click on advanced and come here to the number. Let's make it 500. And then let's come to the hair length and bring it down to about 0.47 meters, about there. And we're going to come down. And by the way, I'll just mention the scale here is obviously going to have a lot to do with the scale of your character. If your number here looks very different, it could be because you have a different scaling, but more or less, we want it just about this length. We're then going to come down to our render. We're going to change it over here. We're going to enable B-spline. And then we're then going to come down to the viewport display. We're going to change the strand steps to count of 3. And then we're going to go down to the children, make it interpolated. And then we're going to keep going down to our clumping. We're going to click here on use clump curve. We're going to click on this top handle and just drag it down. And then click on this top one and move it down a bit. But then click to add a middle handle and just kind of bulge it up a little bit like so. So we have this sort of shape. Very simple. Okay, we're now going to scroll up and we're going to enable hair dynamics. And with our character mesh still active, we're going to go to our modifiers, add modifier, search and type in collision. Give it a collision physics here, and then drag it above the particle system. So you should see over here we have the armature, then we have the collision, and then the particle. If you do not have it in this order, you will have issues. So make sure armature first, followed by collision, and then the particle system. That way, if we now come here to our timeline and we come to frame 1 or 0, and you hit the spacebar, you're now going to see this is what we have. Pretty cool. Okay, so with that done, let's go over to our particles. We're going to go down to the cache. It should be set to 115, just like an end frame value. In an older version of Blender, it might not automatically update like that, in which case you have to come here and just change it to the same value you have over here. In my case, that's all good. So I'm going to go down and just click on bake. And it's now going to bake this into the blend file. It just took a few seconds and we're now complete with the baking. So let's now pause at a frame. We're going to go Shift A. We're going to go to our light options, add in an area light. We're going to go G, Z, and move it up. And with this area light, we're going to go to light properties. Let's give it a strength of 220, and then come to the size and increase it. And now if you go Z and go rendered, you can see we have some lighting. So I'm going to go into the right orthographic view. I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate this light, rotate it towards the character. Then in my top view, I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate, R to rotate it and have it coming from the front. And then Shift D to duplicate again and rotate it in. So I've just duplicated it. And I just have 4 lights over here for now. Then in the camera view, I'm going to go Z and I'm going to go rendered. If you're in cycles, you can go Control B in camera view and just drag over the camera, just to limit the rendering to the camera. Then click on your character, go over to your materials, get rid of it, and then click new. And let's just call this color. And if you're in Australia or the UK, you can always change it to color with a U, which is the correct spelling, but we're not going to get into that. And then we're going to come here to the base color, and we're going to change it to noise texture. And then let's go over to our shading workspace. We're just going to come here to the noise texture and go Shift A, search, and get a U. So type in HUE and then click on Use Saturation and Value. Place it on this cable and then take the saturation up to 5, like so. So nice and saturated. And then let's go back to our layout. And the hairs are barely visible here. Now for some reason, I don't know why, it's way thinner than it should be. So if you go over to your particles, you may not have to do this, but in my case, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a bug in this build of Blender. I've had this happen before with certain builds, but I'm going to come down here to my particles and I'm going to come to where it says, where can I find it? Hair shape. So hair shape, come to the drop down and I'm going to make the root diameter like 10, which is crazy. And I'm going to make the tip like 4. Okay. I don't know why. That's pretty crazy, but unfortunately that's just something I have to do. Hopefully you don't have to go so crazy with those numbers there. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get a shot that I like. If you wanted to, you can go to your render engine over here. You can go down and enable motion blur, which is going to look better, but it's going to add a lot of render time with this sort of hair. So for this time, I won't do it. But what I will do is select the background plane that we added in here. I'm going to go to my materials, go new, and under the base color, I'll just make it dark. So now let's just go render and just render a single image. And there we have it. That looks absolutely amazing. Just look at these beautiful colors and textures we get from the hair. Now this is going to look even more amazing when you render it out as an animation. So let's close this and let's just go over to our output. Come down here to the output file, and then you can select somewhere on your computer. You can either render this out as PNG sequences, which is probably preferable, and then you can compile it together into a video. If you want to go the simpler route, which is a bit more risky, you could always directly change this to an FFmpeg video, and then come here to the encoding and then change it to the container here to MP4. Now, if this doesn't take too long to render on your computer and you're using a GPU, definitely go ahead, give it a shot, just directly rendering into video. Probably not too much risk, but if this is going to take some time to render, I definitely recommend you stick to PNG sequences and then just compile it together. Now there's plenty of videos showing you how to compile sequences together in Blender or other third-party softwares, but that's something I'm not going to cover right now because I've covered that many times. But that is the general idea of how to make this. So we'll be uploading this final result to my Patreon. So those of you on the Patreon will get access to that. It also helps support the channel. So I really hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time.